Hi guys, Ronnie here and welcome to our little stream with my coach Arek, with who I've been working for the past 2 seasons to improve on my time trial results. And today we will talk about how I got from basically a complete beginner level to finally winning the national championships in the individual time trials this year in June.
Hello.
Arek, we have a couple of topics that we would like to discuss for the viewers. So there will be many questions regarding my training and preparation and how we went to the event last year and this year and maybe before that. We also have some numbers. There were questions about my general fitness, how did it improve during the years in terms of power output. And then there are many questions about the technical part, of course, in a time trial that's extremely important, even more so than in a road race, regarding aerodynamics and efficiency on the bike and of the bike itself. So I will talk a little bit more about that in the latter part of the video.
Yeah, so definitely we will cover both topics, both the training and the aerodynamics part and the stuff you are using to be faster. But I think the most important is the engine. So what is speeding up your bike, so your legs and cardiovascular system, lungs, and all stuff that we are improving with proper trainings and dedication from your side to the workouts and to the lifestyle which we are using. We will also cover some topics about building muscle mass strength, building stamina with the tent and hypoxic training. So all of this. But I think let's start, Ronnie, with how all of this started. So tell us something more about how you had gone into cycling, what were you doing before, and how is it that you loved this discipline so much?
Well, for me personally, I come from a family that has a motorsport background, so I started with that, racing motorbikes since I was 6, basically. So there was a little bit of sport improvement, but yeah, it's quite a bit different than cycling in terms of the athletic performance. So there are very, very different requirements there, and I did this up to the age of 18. When I had some injuries and I just didn't have the motivation to continue in that anymore, so I was looking at something else, and I always liked cycling. First I started mountain biking, riding trails, and then I got on the road a little bit later on, and at one point I decided that I wanted to compete, so I started taking it.
How old were you in that stage?
I was 21. So a little bit of a late start to cycling than what is normal. So then I got my first power meter and I started learning about training and all the details regarding the bike, because yeah, I'm technically minded, so I always like that aspect of every sport or anything in general. And then I started progressing gradually. First, just I was going to university, so I didn't have too much time. But then I got into this and the bike business full time, and then we ended up where we are now.
Mm-hmm. And how was it when you first started your trainings? Like, what were did you have any training plan, or you were just following the workouts by your feelings? How was it?
At first, I was just riding and started to increase the intensity, the distances that I've done, so nothing really structured. I didn't have any education or knowledge in that regard, so maybe that was hindering my performance at the beginning a little bit, but yeah, I guess it had to come naturally. And then I sought out your help, and then from that point I started doing proper scheduled and structured training regimes, and we structured the whole season, and then the results really started to show. So that was.
Let's start before we dive into the details of the performance and how it was progressing. Do you remember your first race? How was it on the
Yes, it was a short time trial in Hungary. It was, I think, 18 kilometers, and my goal was to average 40 km per hour at least.
and how did it end up?
And I did 42 in the end, so I was very happy.
Okay.
And I remember the first time I got a time trial bike. Actually, this is the thing I wondered about, if I was ever to be able to average 40 km per hour. And then this year I did 50. So it reminded me of this. It was kind of a nice moment. So yeah, you can progress a lot if you put the energy in it.
And do you remember the date? When was that first time trial which you had done?
I think it was beginning of April 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So over 5 years back. And that was the year that I first started riding with a power meter and had my first time trial bike and did my first events in that year. So that was a big change, because before that I only did motorsport events, so cycling is a fair bit different. So it was a bit of a shock, but I liked it and stuck to it.
Yeah, and how do you compare like the effort from motorsporting to time trial? Because in time trial we have to suffer a lot on ourselves, and in motorsport I don't say it's easy, but you can push the gas and you are going faster. And how it was comparing to that discipline, because you had spent a lot of time there, yeah?
Yes, well, the thing about motorsport is when you're doing that, you think it's really tough, and then you start doing something that's a lot tougher, and then you realize that it's really not that bad. But motorsport is more about skill, I would say. Or a lot of it is about skill, and it is hand-eye coordination and how quickly you can react, how brave you are. And I'm not saying that I'm bad at those things, but I'm definitely not great. I'm definitely not brave and not taking the risks that others were taking. So in that regard, cycling suits me a lot better, because then, and the time trial specifically, because there you can just push yourself, and that's how you achieve the results. So yeah, in that regard, very, very different.
I, as a coach, compare time trialing to the running, because in running, like let's say in half marathon or 10K, 5K, you just run on yourself. Of course, you can use in some way the pacing of other guys and stuff, but 95% of the effort is on yourself. And it's similar in time trial, so it's really fair due to amount of effort which you put and the output which you get. Because in road racing it's quite different. Of course, still you have to be really strong, but if you are poor with tactics or not pace yourself well in the breakaway or don't attack in the right moment, then you can lose, even if you were the fittest guy in the pack. But in time trial it's different. If you are strong and you can push yourself to the limits, then it's really reliable, the results, the final results. So let's dive in smoothly from that year which you say, so 2016 to right now. Here is the Training Peaks. I think most of you know this platform, and here we have the power profile, and actually it's covering all the time which we have the data for. So from 2016 to right now, 2021, and it's 5 years of the data, and we can go through the powers which Ronnie had generated and how it is relating to his first steps in time trialing and competing in road cycling and all to right now. So we can see from that picture that what I see also in my coaching experience, that the sprint you cannot push a lot higher if you are quite good with that. And Ronnie had generated in first years like around 1100, and now it's still around 1100 1000, but the thing is that he can sustain that effort for quite longer. So when it was 5 seconds, he can build it up to a little longer, like 8 to 10 seconds. Of course, we are not focusing on that specific physiology aspect as a sprint, because road racing and especially sprint on the flat is not the area of specialty, and we can see very easily here that it's the weakest part of Ronnie's physiology. Still, it's not so bad, because on watts per kilo ratio it's still quite good number, because 18 watts per kilo, but on the flat sprint he cannot compete with the guys who are pushing like 15, 16, 1700 in 5 seconds, be weighting like around 80 kilos. So we were not focusing on that. But what we wanted to achieve for sure when starting our cooperation like 2 years ago almost, it was winning the national champs in Slovakia and then build up from there. So Ronnie had achieved bronze medal, so he was third in last year and first in this year. And how we can see here the power profile chart. I think most of you are accustomed to Training Peaks software, but if you are not, and just to say shortly, this is the chart which is showing you your progress in power in terms of watts per kilo, which you are generating for some of categories of effort and the length of duration. So 5 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, and 60 minutes. And roughly saying, when you know what your power profile is, you can also expect different results in the races. You can compare to each other, and you can compare also to yourself. And now we want to compare Ronnie to himself 5 years ago. So we can see in 20 minutes that he was doing his first FTP test for 20 minutes on it was between July and September 2016, so 5 years ago exactly, and the power was 261 with weight 62 kilos, so it was giving for 20 minutes 4.2 watts per kilo. So still from that we can see that he has the potential for cycling, because the ratio of watts per kilo was really nice already from the beginning. Of course, he had a lot of background in the sport itself, but that kind of wattage was really good in terms of progressing in cycling. And we can see the next bars, how they are rising within years. And right now, to compare, he was starting with 260, and right now the last test was 340. So it was 80 watts more with even lower weight, so around 60, 61. So it was the progress from 4.2 watts per kilo to 5.65 watts per kilo. So it's a huge progress. Of course, you have to remember that it's 5 years, and cycling is not a sport where you can progress such a lot from in 1 year or 2 years. You have to give yourself some more time, especially if you want to compete in elite time trials like this, or generally very high level competitions. But when you are starting and your level is lower, like let's say 3 watts per kilo, 3.5, something like this, you can progress in 1 year a lot. So from 3.5, you can go to 4 watts per kilo, 4.2 watts per kilo in 1 year. This is what I experience with most of cyclists who we are coaching in Way to Champ, and they are progressing in 1 year in such a way. So it's quite, I don't say it's easy, because you have to put the work and we have to plan it in a nice way, but it's definitely achievable. So most of cyclists can achieve 4.2 watts per kilo in quite short time. So I would say 1 year to 1.5 of focused training. And we can see also other parameters, how they were rising and how they were building to the point where Ronnie could sustain the high power in national champs and get average speed of 48 kilometers per hour, comparing to 42 in his first time trial. So it's you can see it's some of the people can see it's only 6 km/h, but when you are riding time trials, you will definitely know the difference between 42 and 48. It's like between amateur and pro. This is generally the difference. And due to 5-minute effort, he was starting at 303 watts, so 4.9 watts per kilo, and in 5 years it had risen to almost 400, 387, and the watts per kilo ratio had risen from 4.9 to 6.4. So really huge progress. You can also see here on that scale how is it comparing to the categories. Here we have the categories from US. So it's for amateur racing, and those are roughly saying for pro racing and pro cyclists. So we have 5 categories of amateurs and 3 of pros. So we can see here that Ronnie right now this year had gone in 3 categories into first exceptional category of pros, so domestic pro, and it is the indicator that he can compete with elite, and he had proved that in national champs, winning the race. So actually those statistics are true, and you can compare yourself to another guys, because those are coming from thousands of files, and you can compare that way. So this is 5 minutes, so really huge progress. And if you want to be a strong time trialist, you have to have the strongest parameters here, so 5 and 20 minutes, because they are directly connected to the average speed which you will be gaining on time trials. Of course, many other factors are coming here, so it's only the maximum power, but then how you structure the training out of that, how will you progress, how will you taper before the time trials, how will you pace yourself. It's as important as the maximum powers, but it is giving you the possibility to reach very high results. And of course, to rise FTP, very important thing is to rise also your anaerobic systems. So that we were focusing on developing 1 to 2 minutes effort also. And Ronnie had risen from really low number, because it was like 370, 390 on 1 minute, to right now 605. So it was rising from...
difference.
Yeah, here is the biggest difference I can see in the percentage. So it was from 6.3 watts per kilo to 10 watts per kilo. And actually it makes Ronnie also competitive in road racing, because he can not only hold high power in 30 to 50 minutes or 1 hour in time trialing, but he can also repeat the high intensity intervals. So 1 minute in around 5 to 600, 30 seconds around 700, and he can repeat it over the long period of time. So in time trial, it's not only important to have the high power generated in average in short time, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and so on, but also to build your aerobic endurance and have all the benefits coming from that into time trialing. So I am building the shape from perspective that all of the aspects, maybe apart from sprint, are important to build your time trial performance. So both 1 minute maximum power, 5 minute maximum power, 20 minute maximum power, and the aerobic endurance. And this is how we structure. And Ronnie, can you tell something about those numbers? Like how did you feel them on the training, like when you were progressing, and how you saw yourself progressing on the races also with the numbers rising?
Well, unfortunately, in the past 2 years, there haven't been that many races that I could do, at least not road races. But from the ones I've done, the thing you can immediately notice that, for example, in these shorter climbs, in let's say the 5-minute efforts, I went from being dropped to the person who can drop people, because I was essentially racing the same people. So that's a big difference, and definitely a morale booster. And in the time trials, of course, I have my regular loop that I do testing and the simulations on, and I can see the times there consistently going lower I've cut, I think, more than 1 minute if you go back 1 year from the same time, going from 47 to 48 kilometers per hour average. So that's where you can see the time trialing part. And then the workouts themselves, it's also quite easy to judge, because when I get a set of intervals, then instead of trying to keep on the maximum or stay at the maximum level and sometimes struggling a little bit, I went from overachieving, and in the beginning of the season when we had to adjust the zones. So yeah, that's another portion of the riding where you can see those power numbers improving.
I also just to show the viewers the difference. Also, when your FTP is rising so high, so around 5 and more watts per kilo, your average speed is definitely rising so much in the training. So apart from doing, like most of the people, around 29, 30, 31, you can average 37, 38 kilometers per hour easily. And this is also how Ronnie's 4 hours ride, 5 hours ride are looking, yeah. And people are amazed that he was going for the race, and actually he was going solo. And this is how it is when you are rising your FTP so much, and your aerobic endurance the same.
Yeah, basically, if I look back at that, as we discussed before, my 20-minute power was 260. Now my zone 2 is almost 250. So yeah, that makes a huge difference. Even if I go for the long rides too, I did 6.5 hour rides at almost 250 normalized a couple of months ago. So yeah, if you compare those, then really it's a different class of riding altogether. So that's where the speed comes in as well.
Yes. So just to see it easily, Ronnie has generated 260 in 20 minutes maximum 5 years ago, and actually now those 250 is what he can generate over a few hours of riding in normalized power, and it's where the speed is coming from. I want to share with you also with Ronnie the some details of the training program which we were doing. So this winter also we focused not only on building the power and the endurance, but also on building Ronnie's strength and muscle mass, because we decided that if we want him to build to build stronger time trials and to be averaging higher average speeds, then we need to build higher muscle mass and then strength. So we can build around 2-3 kilos more in lean muscle mass, not fat, and then it responded in hiring our average watts in 20 minutes, and especially in 1 minute you had seen the difference, like it was raised so much. So this is the difference with the proper strength training also. And the program looks like this. We are communicating with Ronnie every week about how the workouts had gone. I am analyzing them and how is he progressing. I am also ensuring that I am giving in proper timely manner the recovery periods, because we have to also remember that Ronnie has his own business, bike shop, and he's spending a lot of his working hours there. So he is not a pro who is paid from that, and I truly appreciate that he's dedicating himself so much, because he's working, like, let's say 8 to 10 hours, yeah, Ronnie, in the shop, and apart from that he's doing training. So
sometimes even more.
Yes.
So that's an area that I definitely want to focus on now, is to expand my business, so I personally don't have to spend so much time there, and then I can have more time for recovery, because yeah, for training, as you see, it's mostly green, luckily, so I managed to hit those targets, but the recovery process is suffering a little bit on some days. So I think if you improve on that area, then we can improve the power a bit more as well.
Yes, exactly. Ronnie see it on his example, and me as a coach, I strongly put emphasis on recovery. When you have like little time to train, then I would even delete some of training or cancel and put recovery there, because you will benefit from that even more. In Ronnie case, you can see elite guys can go like for 20-30 hours per week, but with Ronnie we didn't have the possibility this winter and spring to hit such a big numbers. So we were putting around 12 hours, as you can see, 13 hours, 14 hours, 15, something like this, and you can achieve really high performance in time trial, hitting such numbers if you want to go so fast as Ronnie. But if you are beginner or middle pack cyclist, you can benefit from even putting in a week like 7 to 10 weeks. It's, I think, completely enough to be very competitive in time trials and in road races also, but let's say up to 3 hours of length. So you don't have to think that you have to put like 15-20 hours to progress. This is not true. When you really structure your trainings well and you are recovering good, then you will progress fast. And the other thing which we were doing, because there were a lot of races because of the pandemic times, we were doing the simulations of time trials. So Ronnie had been choosing the segment on Strava, and he was just putting himself to the maximum. We were using the warm-up protocols, which we were using also later on the races. So it was really something to help the athlete concentrated on the goal, and also to remember the body that it's working on the maximum level of performance. So with those kind of simulations, we can go really deep. And of course, we were also improving his aerobic endurance. So we were doing a lot, especially on the weekends, of rides around 5 hours, 6 hours, because we were also preparing to the national champs in road race. Unfortunately, it didn't end good, because you can say, Ronnie, something about it.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to that race because it was really long. Normally we don't have races that long on the calendar. It was 230 kilometers almost, which could potentially suit me because I have pretty good endurance. But I caught up in a crash in the first hour, and from that point I couldn't rejoin the main bunch because the pace was too high to catch up. So yeah, I ended prematurely in there, but hopefully next year we can do better in that regard.
Yes, exactly. But still, the aerobic endurance which you had gained from those long workouts had paid off in time trials and in the power which you could sustain there. And here we can see the example of the training. Here we have 5.5 hours, 222 watts on 60 few kilos. It's quite good power. And in 30 hundredths meter of elevation, the average speed is 34. So you can see that you can go really fast, even alone and even on the undulating terrain. So it was this. And I also wanted to share with you some tips how we build up the end performance. Like, let's say in the specialty phase, we were using the hypoxic tent. So Ronnie was sleeping in the tent on the night. So it was around 2 weeks, little more, and we were rising the meters of elevation he was sleeping in. So from 2,000 to even 3,000 meter of elevation, and he was checking out every day the saturation, which the blood has, and the resting heart rate. So we were ensuring that he's doing well with that tent, and we were adjusting the training to that. So when the saturation were going higher, we were hiring the intensity also. And Ronnie has ended up the tent 10 days before nationals, and the peak had come in the nationals. So over 41 kilometers, he had generated the average speed of 48 kilometers per hour. and it was our end goal. And now we are building up to the next races, very important ones, which will come in September. So we have the Road European Championships in time trial and the World Championships in time trial, where Ronnie will be representing his country. So I am really proud of that. And this is the short story of the performance. Now I think let's go a little deeper into the technical part, which Ronnie is specializing in. So tell us, Ronnie, a little more about that aerodynamics, like how all that started with the with changing the bikes, like seeing the best parts, printing some of them on 3D, wind tunnel, suits, all of that. How does it compare to the, how does it respond to the average speed you are getting?
Well, when I first started in cycling, as I said, I'm quite technically orientated, so I immediately started paying attention to these things. Unlike other cyclists, maybe cycling is quite a traditional sport, so a lot of people don't pay attention to this. They just want to get stronger and ride more and try to, which is, of course, has its place, but you can only go so far. So yeah, the first and most important factor, of course, is your aerodynamic drag, and there are a number of ways to reduce that, but people often confuse this, with just buying expensive equipment, which of course usually is faster, but how you are set up on the bike is a whole lot more important. How you interact with the bike, how you interact with the helmet, with the clothing, etc. So in the first 2 or 3 years I didn't pay much attention to this because I didn't have the knowledge, but then I started working with the guys from AeroCoach, and I went out to the UK to do my first aerodynamic tests, and we made some huge improvements there. And from that point onwards, it was really my key priority. Basically, because I'm a light rider, I can't produce 400 watts for 20 minutes or even 10 at the time being. So my only chance to compete and be fast is to really have a very, very low drag number. And we worked on that. We worked on my position, my strength in the upper body, and just to get adapted to those extreme positions. And we did a lot of refinements. I went to the UK twice to refine my position, and then this year I also started working with Nocio, which is an on-bike aerodynamic sensor, and now I can do my own tests. I have pretty good conditions to do that out on the road nearby, so I further refined my position there, my helmet choice. That's also very, very important. And then I started, as I got and gathered some experience on this subject, I started doing my own tests for clients, and we have achieved some pretty good results with them too. So apart from my title, based on this aero testing data, I also managed to set up Eric Fetter from Hungary to win his national title, which is a professional rider riding from Eolo Kometa. So for me, it's an honor to set up someone like this and achieve the victory. So that's nice. And I also have set up a Masters rider here in Slovakia who also managed to win his Masters title. So yeah, from experience, aero just works. If you put the time in it, then definitely you can get big results. The difficulty with it is that it's sometimes not obvious or not logical things that can help you make faster. For some people it's faster to go narrow with the bars, for some it's faster to go wider. So really there are no rules to which works.
It's all depending, to my experience, also on your muscle strength also and your flexibility. So that you have to also work not only on your power you are generating on the bike, but also on your body. So that's strengthening your core muscles, your arms, biceps, triceps, neck, also the back and abdominals, so that your body can hold that position when the legs are putting very high wattage on the pedals. Because what's happening if you don't have this and you only put the work on the bike, then the body after a few minutes is getting flexible and the power is not going to the pedals to have your average speed higher, but to sustain the body position. So the power is going also from legs and it's lowering actually the average speed. So this is not what we want, and with Ronnie we are making sure that even in the racing season we are trying to put 1 gym per week to sustain the gains in the muscle strength and flexibility which we had built over the winter. So this is the tip we can share with you also.
Yeah, this part is extremely important as well, because there's no point in having a fast position that you can hold for 5 minutes, because there are not many races that only last 5 minutes. So yeah, it's a really complex topic that it took me years to optimize to the point I'm at now. So this is the aerodynamics part. Of course, then helmet choice, etc., as I've mentioned, and then clothing is very important too. At this point, I have custom-made skin suits made for me by Nopins to perfectly match my body shape. So that's also helps. It's quite a big gain there. But there are other factors you need to consider as well, and the first of them is the drivetrain friction, because it doesn't matter how much power you're producing if you're losing 5% of it to friction, if you can reduce that to 1.5. So that's a massive difference again. And the good thing, well, the important thing to remember about drivetrain efficiency is that it's always there, because people, particularly amateurs, tend to claim that aerodynamics doesn't apply to them because they're not going very fast. Well, it doesn't matter how fast you're going, your drivetrain is still always taking all of your power to the road, so it's extremely important. And then
generally speaking, like 80% of your power is going only into fighting with the aerodynamics, so the wind resistance.
Yeah, that's usually the case with the good setups, and then the rest of it, as I said, are drivetrain losses and rolling resistance as well. And there can be some gains made. They're not as big as in the other two areas, but you definitely need to keep an eye on that. Also with the interactions between the tire and the wheel, some people don't pay attention to that because some combinations work better than others. Then nowadays we have the choices of running tubeless or clincher tires. Each has their own use case, and again, each has their combination which works best. So there are definitely a lot of things to keep an eye on, but aerodynamics are the key priority, particularly at those higher speeds that we get in time trials. And for me, if you look back at my time trials, just a quick example, a couple of years ago I was averaging around 45-46 km per hour in short, let's say 10-kilometer flat courses, and I needed around 300 watts to do that. And last year I've done an Ironman relay where I averaged 45 kilometers per hour, so it's basically 18 times the distance at the same speed. So yeah, you can't do that without properly optimizing your setup.
Yeah, and what is your CDA right now, Ronnie?
The last time I've tested, it was 0.175, so that's pretty low.
In the full-time trial setup?
Yeah? Yes, in the race setup, but I'll work a bit more on that now because I have a couple more helmets coming in to test. So maybe we can find some gains there. And yeah, regarding the position, there's not much really to improve on at the moment. But of course, I'm always exploring different things, so maybe we can find something until September.
Yeah, so now we focus on building up that power even higher, because there is some room still in Ronnie's CDA, but not so much, as you can see, because around 17 is the, I think, elite time trial guys have. Of course, Ronnie is also light and skinny, so that his CDA is also low because of that. But every one of you with slight changes can go quite low with the CDA, so that your average speed can rise, let's say, for free. I mean, not for free, because you have to...
For no extra effort, yeah.
Do the work and sometimes buy the expensive stuff, but you will see that it works, and it can rise your speed like in few days for 1 to 2 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, definitely. And just to give you an idea, because yeah, as we said, I'm quite short. I'm 172 centimeters tall. So for me, that's a good CDA. Taller guys, for example, in the range of 190 centimeters, for them it's good if you can hit around 0.2 or 0.2. In that region, they're really fast. But it's harder to go lower from that. You need to be really optimized to get in those 119s, or sorry, 0.19s. But yeah, it depends on all the factors. For example, on a track setup, if you, like me, are looking into the hour record, then if you go down to a full track bike and double discs, etc., then you can go, of course, even quite a bit lower than that, around 0.16 or in that region. So I'm looking to try and optimize that one in the future as well.
So many goals for the future. So happy to see that, and being still motivated to hit them. So I think we have covered the short story of Ronnie's history from going from amateur to national champ. So if you have any questions, just let us know in the comment. And if you want to reach to me due to coaching services, the contact will be there, and to Ronnie's shop, equipment, aero testing, and all the stuff connected with improving time trials, and also the equipment, you can go to where, Ronnie, you will send the viewers?
Oh, I'll send it to my website and to my email contacts. Those will be in the description, just like yours. And then we can work with them to make them faster.
Yes, exactly. So really looking forward to answer to your questions if you have anything. And I thank you for your time, for watching our short interview. And I am keeping my fingers crossed for your improvements in time trials and the average speeds.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for your time too, and your insight into the data. We'll see each other next time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.